the likelihood of an incident.
It's Jeremy Shaw. Shea Adam, a couple of people out of position with a couple of infractions in qualifying.
Yes, as a matter of fact, the biggest one of those of note is the brightest one of note. That is Volt, as it was previously known, Volt Racing. Archangel Motorsport, they had a spring infraction in qualifying, as Jeremy mentioned, on the grid. That moves that class from third position, where Alan Brynjolfsson had dragged the Aston Martin up to, all the way back to 20th. The good news for Alan, he's fast, he knows it, and he won a race a week ago, not even here at Sebring International Raceway. He is good and confident and will be handing the car over later in the race to Trent Inman, who also knows his way to victory lane around Sebring.
So the car's in the afternoon sunshine as the 2 hours has been put on the clock. TCR are exactly what it says on the tin, touring car global category. GS, of course, GT4. And at the front of the field, a really competitive run from Maxwell Root for Wright Motorsports in the 7018 Cayman GT4 for Club Sport. He'll start on that front row on pole position with the AWA McLaren 570S for Ori Fadani. Then Russell Ward, Winward Racing, nearly snatched pole position yesterday in the first of the AMG GT4 Mercedes. Dylan McAvan for Turner Motorsport shares the second row in a BMW. No, we have not had a repeat manufacturer in the top 4. It is a second McLaren for Motorsports in Action, and Sheena Monk in position 5 with the Team TGM Chevy Camaro, number 46, in 6th position. Automatic Racing has the Aston Martin V8 Vantage in 7th position. In 8th, it is Fast MD Racing for the Audi R8 GT4, making up the top 10. PF with the Ford Mustang GT4, the number 40. And Riley Motorsports with the new for 2021. That is the Toyota Supra GT4. I'll give you the runners and riders as they go through for the TCR, but we are indeed racing for GS, and the light blue and black Porsche disappears into the distance. A fantastic start. It is the Atlanta Speedworks Honda Civic on pole position for TCR. Coming to the line now, the blue and yellow car, Coupler Motorsports Hyundai Veloster in second place, at least should have been, as they went across the line. Pretty untidy start from the TCRs, actually. Then it's LA Honda Worlds with the Honda Civic and the first of the Audis for Gavin Hansen. So we have got underway. And I like to see these split starts, Jeremy. I think it works very, very well indeed.
Yeah, definitely the right move, I think, for IMSA to do that. There were too many incidents in the early stages of the races when they were all starting together because of the speed differential between the quickest of the TCRs and the slowest of the GS car. So it certainly makes a lot more sense to me to do this, and nice clean start. Maxwell Root, boy, has a tremendous effort in qualifying, a full second clear of the field, all but just a few thousandths of a second shy of that, and already he's taken off at the start. Here he pulled out more than a second and a half in his opening lap, just flying away from the field. There's a problem though for one of the two Team TGM Chevrolets, and the big lock-up for James Pesek
in the PF Mustang. I think Sheena Monk was into the back of Hugh Plum in turn 3, and that looked quite expensive. And the TGM Camaro then in a bit of strife very, very early on. Pesek has recovered in the PF Ford. That just looked like a missed braking area. It's suspension damage. Left rear suspension damage for the 46 Camaro in the grey and chrome blue. What an awful start that is. It actually doesn't look too badly bodywork damaged, but certainly that's had a heavy hit. James Pesek just missing his braking point and going straight on at the tower turn, and he managed to get that car pulled up before it hit the fence. So we have stayed green. A place made up as well early doors by the Turner Motorsport BMW down into turn 7, I noticed. So having said that we've got everything underway cleanly, all hell pretty much broke loose further round the lap. But the upshot of it is that Wright Motorsports' Maxwell Root leads now in second place. The Winward Racing Russell Ward driven Mercedes by 1.2 seconds ahead of Orifadani for McLaren. So let's try and work out what happened in the early part of the lap with Hugh Plum. He's got the McLaren and Sheena Monk behind him, but it was a bump from the Audi behind Sheena Monk. And did Sheena hit the back of Hugh Plum? I think she did. There was some carbon fibre and that slowed everybody up, and that car immediately has gone behind the wall. So I think that was just one of those first lap concertina incidents, Jeremy Shaw, that just happens when everybody's so close together.
Yeah, really unfortunate, I think. And Sheena Monk there, I don't think she really did anything wrong. She got a helping hand, I think it looked like, from Alex Papadopoulos. I think it was in the Audi that was directly behind her. Really good start from that car. It's moved from 8th on the grid to 5th on the first lap, but fair means or foul, that's the question mark. Also a problem here with the car that started on the front row. We talked about a ragged start. Maybe this explains it, because the other Gonzalez, this is Tyler Gonzalez, had qualified this car number 27 for Copeland Motorsports on the front row of the grid in TCR, already in the pit lane.
Yeah, and has dropped to the back of the field. Confirmation, Team TGM behind the wall. Shea will try and get in touch with them and find out what's going on, but I think it was pretty obvious that there was suspension damage on that car. Now the TCR's already beginning to close the gap between the back of the field at the GS field and also any drivers who've had one or two issues, including the Pesek Ford, of course. The carbon with Peregrine number 93 just going back into the TCR category as Pesek tries to come forward through that and make up positions. He didn't spin the car, but he went quite a long way off, not far enough to have to show his credential to get back in again, so it was salvageable at least. So an interesting opening 6 minutes. Now let's see if we can sit and settle down a bit and get some laps under our belt, Jeremy.
Yeah, that would be good, wouldn't it? Certainly in front, meanwhile, in TCR, Brian Henderson from the pole position made a really good start. Mike Lamara hanging on nicely there in second place, but under increasing pressure now from Gavin Hansen, who looks to the inside as they head down towards the hairpin at turn 7. That was the second position goes through. So Ernstone up into second position in TCR then for the number 61 Roadshagger Racing Audi, running the sequential gearbox for the first time this weekend. That team saw how well the Unitronic JDC Miller Motorsports Audi ran with that sequential box at Daytona, where it was a dominant force with Chris Miller, Dr. Will Talley and Mikey Taylor taking a pretty comfortable victory despite having lost ground earlier in the contest. And the Audis are looking very, very stout in the early stages here at Sebring also.
Well, that incident early on between the two cars, the Sheena Monk Motorsport in Action McLaren and Hugh Plum in the TGM Camaro, has been looked at. There'll be no further action. Shea Adam has, and I think that's reasonable enough in the hustle and bustle of the opening lap. So Shea has a VP Racing Fuel Pit paddock update on Tyler Gonzalez and the 27 Hyundai. Shea, what do you got?
What are the three most feared words three most feared letters in terms of an issue in the car? ECU. Oof. It is indeed an electronic gremlin in that Hyundai.
Thank you, Shea. Well, even in your street car, you don't want to hear that. Try and replicate the problem, try and get it to clear, turn it off, turn it back on again. After that, you're talking about some serious time to sort things out. I fear that we will not see that car challenging, perhaps not even back on the track for the remaining hour and 52 or thereabouts minutes in this Alan J Automotive Network 120 4th Michelin Pilot Challenge. Right, James Pesic is working his way through the TCR field. He's got the top 4 still ahead of him, which is Chris Miller for the Unitronic Audi, Matt Lamara in the LA1 Honda World Racing Honda in 3rd. Second is Gavin Hansen, who's had a really good opening couple of laps in behind Brian Henderson of Atlanta Speedworks. That's your top 4 from 4th through to 1. Spin for the Toyota Supra number 14. It's the Riley Motorsports GT4, and that's at turn 10, which has been a real action area this week already in the Porsche, Mazda races and in the qualifying sessions. The good news is the Toyota engine is still running. There is damage underneath at the back, which might suggest he had a little bit of help there, and there's something rubbing. And I'm looking at the rear suspension as well to see if that's all pointing in the right direction, or he's getting some unwelcome rear wheel steering, and I think that is the case as he just about avoids the Alpha number 5 going through. Yeah, the right rear is rubbing because the suspension arm or the toe arm at the bottom of the link is rubbing, and that's why that car is running so slowly. Beautifully turned out in the white, red and black of Toyota. Yeah, right rear wheel now at a jaunty angle, Jeremy, and that again would suggest to me then that he did have some help going down into turn 10. Turned in, there was somebody there. Thud, yes there was, and it was the Volt racing car. Impossible to hide, that one. It's so bright. So Alan Brynjolfsson in the Aston Martin was the driver down the inside there, and so far back you would suggest, although we haven't seen it from outside the car, it would suggest that he wasn't really far enough down the side of the car to make that pass at 10.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. The Central Americans in the Riley Motorsports Toyota had a really good run, along with the Argentinian Julian Santero at Daytona, finishing in the top 10. Had a really stout run there, and Javier Quiros, the veteran driver, he'd qualified the car in the 10th position, moved up a couple of places on the first lap, fell back a couple of places on the 3rd lap, and then, as you say, had the contact with Alan Brynjolfsson, who had started, of course, from the back of the field, trying to work his way through. So most unfortunate for that team. Meanwhile, Maxwell Root, he leads by a couple of seconds out front, but Dylan McIvern in 3rd position in the Turner Motorsport BMW car number 95, finished on the 2nd step of the podium at Daytona, former series champion. Just set the fastest lap of the race at a 2 minutes 12.4 last time around.
Shea Adam can give us an update on the Pesic number 40 Ford.
It's an incident that we've seen several times this weekend from other cars so far. ABS failure for the bright pink Ford going into turn 10. Very strange, but we have seen it a couple of times this weekend in other series.
I wonder if that's something to do with the bumps as the systems get more sophisticated in GT4. Maybe the bumps are throwing them off. They're becoming more adjustable in GT4, much as the GT3s were some years ago. But it's an odd one. It's not certainly the first, as Shea has said. So front of the field, 2.6 seconds is the gap between Maxwell Root in the right Porsche and Winward Racing's Russell Ward in 2nd place. Origin Darling's dropped down to 4th now in the McLaren from AWA. That means Dylan McIvern has gone up into 3rd for Turner Motorsport, which will make everybody at Turner very happy indeed. That car with an ex team car, should I say, with the interesting livery on it this weekend. It's the Vin Barletta and Robbie Foley car sitting in 7th position, right in behind Shayna Monk. They have brought a livery from the virtual world and Bureau Sud competition, BR, into the real world. Robbie Foley is the link there. He drives in the real world for Turner and in the virtual world for BMW partner team Bureau Sud BS competition. And to sort of make the bridge between the two worlds, particularly with the IMSA Racing Pro Series on iRacing restarting on the 8th of April, it's a half and half livery on that car, and Robbie has got a half and half race suit as well. Toyota has just gone behind the wall. That's 3 cars in the first dozen minutes, Jeremy, behind the wall. We haven't seen this kind of attrition for quite some time in the Michelin Pilot Challenge.
No, most unfortunate, isn't it? And you know, for a variety of reasons. In the meantime, Dylan McAvern is doing a super job in the 2nd position. Just got past Russell Ward now in the Turner Motorsport BMW. He's chasing after Max Root, who's just reset the fastest lap of the race last time around. 2 minutes 11.997. That's about a second outside the race lap record that was set last year by Robin Liddell in the Chevrolet Camaro for Rebel Rock Racing. Talking Rebel Rock Racing, by the way. Frank Dupuy is up into the 13th position in car number 71. And the biggest mover so far has been Alan Brynjolfsson. He's up into 10th place now, having started in 20th in car number 7. The next cars ahead of him on the racetrack is a battle for position between Vin Barletta, who's doing a really nice job in car number 96, his best run to date by a long way, and also Michael McCann in the Audi car number 8. They are battling for 8th and 9th positions in car numbers 96 and 8.
Jeremy Shaw in the Hackney Global Broadcast Centre with me, John Hindhaugh. So if you're on the right-hand side of the car, looking across the track from driver's right, or following along on IMSARadio.com if you're outside the US with our live video stream, then you will see the zebra stripes, or zebra stripes I suppose, of the Bureau Sud competition. That's lifted directly from their BMW M4s that race in all kinds of virtual competition, including all the big races on iRacing. If you're on the left-hand side of the track, as Brynjolfsson is in the pits, I presume that is for incident responsibility, Shane, with the PF car?
That is correct, with the 14.
Sorry, yes, with the 14 car. Right, okie dokie. So that one was assessed very quickly.
Unfortunate for that team, because Brynjolfsson, he knew he had a fast car, and what he didn't need to do was something like that that's going to cost them to cause them to fall way to the back of the field again. And as Shay said earlier on, Aaron Brynjolfsson and Trent Hinman also already had a win at Sebring this year. 1 week ago, they scored their first victory together in the IMSA Prototype Challenge Series. A very dominant victory it was as well for that pairing. So they're trying to make it to two races and 2 wins in 2 weeks, but it's going to be awfully difficult now with that drive-through penalty.
PF car still sitting in the pit lane as well. Yeah, let me just finish the thought about the Turner. So if you're on the right, you'll see the Bureau Sud livery. If you're on the left, it's the standard yellow and blue of Turner Motorsport. And if you're standing on the right of Robbie Foley when he's in the pit lane, you'll see exactly the same combination. Bureau Sud on the right and Turner on the left. He's got a half and half race suit. I'm sure we'll see that when we get to the driver change. Off in the distance, Maxwell Root. He's out on a Friday afternoon drive in the very pretty blue, white and black number 16 Porsche 718 Cayman GT Club Sport, should I say, for Wright Motorsport. He's disappeared into the distance, and Dylan McAvern now in 2nd position has overtaken the Winwood Racing Mercedes of Russell Ward. Ori Fadani still in 4th position. So it's Porsche, BMW, Mercedes, top 3 all German manufacturers. In TCR, Brian Henderson has a similar comfortable lead, not quite as big, but nearly 3 seconds in the blue and yellow Atlanta Speedworks Honda. The Seatbelt sponsorship on the side, just going through turn 13 now. And then it's Gavin Hansen in the dark grey Audi number 61. Then it's the second of the Hondas, the LA Honda World Racing Civic. And then the Unitronic Audi. So 2 Hondas, 2 Audis at the front of the TCR field. Best of the Hondas at the moment is Ryan Norman in the 98 car. Maxwell Root pushing very hard indeed and trying to make that gap even a little bit wider than it is, Jeremy. This is impressive by young Maxwell Root for Wright Motorsports, particularly given the circumstances in which he finds himself behind the wheel. Get back to that thought at the moment is the side-by-side action with Vin Barletta trying to defend his position. Ultimately couldn't do that, and through goes the McCann Racing Audi, the red, white and black car, and that then is a new 8th position. Back to the TCRs for a moment, and the Hyundais beginning to pick up their speed, and Ryan Norman and Harry Gottsacker now right in behind Chris Miller and Matt Lamara. They're catching them up. In fact, it's gone through. 98 has gone through now on the LA Honda World, on the 17 Unitronic Audi. Yeah, back to the front of the field, Jeremy, and Maxwell Root doing very well, as I say, considering the circumstances in which he finds himself behind the wheel of that car.
Yeah, that's right, a very late call-up to drive this car just a couple of days before the start of the race meeting, and of course he's looking to kind of recoup his losses. He had a very disappointing first week in the Porsche Carrera Cup North America, which we've already had the 2 races for those this weekend. He had bad luck in both of them. He had a spin on the first lap in the first race, and then some problems in the second race as well. So finished at the back of the field in both of them. But boy, he's making up for it now. And what's interesting to me is he was able to, I think, be relatively conservative in the first 3 or 4 laps and made a great start. Didn't push too hard too soon on those fresh tyres, and they're still now looking very, very in good shape, those Michelin tyres. He's able to set 4 fastest laps in a row and now extend that lead out to over 5 seconds for Maxwell Root. Of course, it's going to be Jan Halen who will complete the race in that number 16 car, and we know how strong Jan Halen is already in this car. He's got a lot of experience in this Porsche 718 Cayman, so it's going to be, it could well be a Sunday afternoon drive here on a Friday for the Wright Motorsports team.
So round about 20 minutes completed, and Shea Adam will give us a VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock update about drive times, because that will affect the strategy. I know it's only a 2-hour race here, but IMSA are always a bit cute about where they set the drive times. It's very seldom, if ever, Shea, an exact fuel run for these cars. The guys on the wall have got to do just as much thinking and calculating as and use their brains as the guys behind the wheels.
If only it could be an exact fuel run for the guys on the wall. They certainly wish that it would be. Minimum drive time for this race is 40 minutes, 40. Maximum drive time is 80 minutes, 80 minutes. Well, it's a 120-minute contest. So yes, you would hope that that's how it would all balance out. But yes, they have 5 sets of tires when the week begins for GS, 4 sets for TCR. But for the TCR pit stops, we only ever see them change the front tires. Should be a one-stop race for TCR, 2 and a splash for GS.
Really nice job here in stages of this race is Brandon Kidd in the automatic racing Aston Martin. He started in the 7th position in the car, lost a couple of positions on the first lap, but since then he's charging back. He's made a few passes. His latest victim is Sheena Monk in the Motorsports in Action McLaren. So Brandon Kidd now in that number 09 Aston Martin up into 6th position. And he's going to try and chase after Alex Papadopoulos, who's already got about 6 seconds in the hand on him. It certainly has been a good run for the youngster from Syracuse, New York.
Gavin Hansen chasing down the leader in TCR. It's been a good opening stint from the expat Brit. Came into this series with a couple of drives a few seasons ago just to test the water, and has then put the programme together, and in fairness, Jeremy has done a very good job indeed, has really grown in stature as a driver, helped by his teammate, but is confident enough now to take that start of the race, which sometimes he hasn't even got out after 40 minutes if the tactics of the race have demanded it. Gavin has stayed on board, and his pace has been improving race on race.
Yeah, he's done well. He had some back issues, didn't he, which caused him some problems, particularly towards the end of this year and even early this season. But Gavin Hansen he and John Morley have got a really good working relationship. Gavin has learned an awful lot from John Morley, who has been an instructor with various racing schools, and he himself is a product of the Skip Barber Racing School from a few years ago, racing the Barber Dodge Pro Series. It used to be very successfully, actually. He's a really good young talent, is John Morley, and it's great to see that Gavin has given him this opportunity to drive number 61 car on a regular basis. That pairing have already had a fair bit of success. They've got 3 wins to their credit in the 23 starts they've made in the Michelin Pilot Challenge, and looking this year to have a championship challenge.
Meantime, the battle for a 3rd position in TCR is warming up a wee bit as well. That's the Audi. It's a little bit further back. I don't know why that I always associate that yellow, black and white with a Honda rather than with an Audi. That is the Unitronic car of Chris Miller, who's got the Copeland Motorsports Veloster. I was going to say behind him, but now it's actually alongside and going through the bright orange and black car. So that is a position made up by the number 51. And through goes that Veloster NTCR to make up the position. One of a couple of shapes of Velosters we've got. AJ Muss there making that position. We have the Veloster, which is the sort of funky coupe version with 1 door on the driver's side and 2 on the passenger side, plus the hatchback, that gives it the 4 door. And of course we've also got running here the newer shaped Elantra NTCR for the Brian Herter Autosport team. Brian Henderson leading for Atlanta Speedworks in TCR in the early part of the lap, and he's just eked out a bit of a lead. Oh, off for the 71. Frank Depew in the Urban Grid Camaro. Now, he'd been doing a really good job as well. That was down at turn 7, and also Vin Barletta off the track as well. That was a bit further round, I think. That was turn 10 again. The moment I take my eyes to look at anything other than what's going on at the track, it seems that something happens. Frank Depew was running around just outside the top 10, doing a really decent job.
He was having a battle there with Anton Diaz-Pereira in the number 10 LAP Motorsports Mercedes. I don't know whether they maybe got a bit too close for comfort, those two. They had been battling over 12th and 13th positions with Tim Probert in the Murillo Racing Car 65, another Mercedes right in that battle as well.
Well, coming down to half an hour completed. The tactics will be being worked out. We've been clean and green. You can blame me if it all goes wrong from here. Shea Adam is our VP Racing Fuel Pit Paddock reporter. I'll come to her in a moment after a problem for Vin Barletta, again in the braking area down to turn 10, and just ran on a little bit. That is becoming a real action hotspot down there. He wasn't under any pressure, it wouldn't seem. I don't think he's damaged the car. certainly looking at the right-hand side, the Bureau Sud BS competition side, that looks all right. Let's have a look at the left-hand side and the Turner Motorsport yellow and blue. Yep, that looks okay as well. So just a little bit of a run on there for Vin Barletta. Shea Adam, update us if you can with what is going on. We've had an interesting first half an hour that's seen 3 cars go behind the wall. Let's have a recap.
We have a little bit of good news, at least in terms of cars going behind the wall and then coming back out again. The 46 of Hugh Plum is now returning from the paddock area. We also have had that 27 Copeland Motorsports Hyundai. That lives once again, and it is still Tyler Gonzalez behind the wheel of that. He's completed 4 laps so far in this race, which means he has about 7 to make up. But if they keep going as frenetic out there as they are right now, anything's possible.
It's strangely quiet in terms of what's going on here. Does this mean that it's about to boil up and explode in the second half of the race? 6 seconds the gap at the front of the field. Maxwell Root for Wright Motorsports Porsche. Then Dylan McAvan for Turner's BMW, the number 95 car in second. Russell Ward in third now, is another 2.5 seconds further back, so that's 8.5 seconds away from the leader, but he's got a full 12.5 seconds to Ori Fadani. So the top 3 have really broken away in GS. In TCR, Henderson by 2 seconds from Ernston, Atlanta Speedworks Honda from the Roadshagger Racing Audi. Then the Honda of the LA Honda World Racing Team, that's the number 73. And then the first of the Brian Herter Autosports Elantra NTCR Hyundais, and that's another 1.5 seconds further back. He's got his teammate Harry Gottecker in the 33 right in behind him as well. Let's try and pick out a little bit of action for you with a couple of Mercedes running close together. That's the LAP Motorsports AMG and the Murillo Racing car that were close together through turn 17. And they are battling for 12th and 13th position. 9 seconds further back is a recovering Anders Brynjolfsson after his drive-through, Jeremy, incident responsibility for that kiss earlier on.
That's right, and he's now right up with Frank Depew in the Rebel Rock Chevrolet, trying to get away 14th position. A little bit further back, there's all sorts of battles up and down the field. We've just got a quick glance at that battle between number 3 of Sheena Monk and Brandon Kidd in the 09 Aston Martin. They've changed positions again, so Sheena back in front there in the 6th position, and a little bit further back, crossing the line, battling for about 7, 9, tail end of the top 10 in TCR is Tyler Hagler and Victor Gonzalez, excuse me, kind of 88.
Well, coming round to when potential pit stops could come within the next, 4 or 5 laps would be minimum drive time. The key question to ask here, Jeremy, is it going to help you? That's the question. I'll ask you that, or I'll let you answer that in a moment, but we need to go back to Shea for another VP Racing Fuel update from the early carnage. Shea, what do you have?
I'm sorry to all the Toyota fans out there and all the Riley Motorsport fans as well. Car 14, the Toyota Supra GT4, officially retired. So after their brilliant debut at Daytona, where they came home 7th, it's a DNF from the first car out of the race today.
Officially, at least, yes, absolutely. And that was contact. That was the contact for which Alan Brynjolfsson was penalised with a drive-through. So tactics now, Jeremy. We are, 3, 4, possibly laps away from when the first drivers will have completed their drive time. The thing to think about there is how much of the race is left, and also how well your starting driver might be doing. There's no sense in changing things out and losing more track position if all you're going to get is effectively losing more track position.
Yeah, well, that's definitely true, isn't it? Because it's you don't want to outsmart yourself. That is for sure. But super battle. This is we're watching at the moment. The number 19 car is is being driven by Rory van der Steur, another of the youngsters in this field, and he's battling away there with Victor Gonzalez. They've been back and forth, these two, nothing to choose between them. They're at the 7th and 8th positions in TCR as Gonzalez looks to the inside of turn 1. He's not going to pull that one off, and just ahead of the both of them is AJ Muss, the snowboarder. Olympian indeed is AJ Muss, who's done a really nice job to move up to 6th position for Copeland Motorsports in one of the sister cars to the cars that qualified on the front row of the grid but had problems early on. That would be Tyler Gonzalez. So he's worked out really well in this race as AJ Muss. He started towards the rather further back than he would have anticipated, in the 11th position, and now up to 6th place in TCR. That's car number 51.
At the head of the field as the TCR battles continue, try and keep across everything that is going on, but that does mean you sort of have to have eyes in the back of your head and be looking all around the circuit at the same time. Thanks to our colleagues at NASCAR Productions up in Charlotte, we can sort of manage to do that. Thank you, everybody. 5.5 seconds at the front of the field now. Maxwell Root to Dylan Lakenburn. 2.5, 3 seconds back, Russell Ward for the Mercedes-Benz. That battle for 6th, 7th and 8th in TCR. Still joined the Copeland Motorsport number 51 car, 10 or 15 cars lengths further ahead of the two battling machines we were talking about, the Van der Steur and Gonzalez, Hyundai and Honda. Oh, good run for Rory van der Steur coming out at turn 16 on the back straight, and he's forced the Hyundai driver to go into the middle of the road. Gonzalez then, getting the run on the van der Steur Hyundai and down towards the final corner. It's pretty good driving by Rory van der Steur there. Did take the middle of the road just to discourage any dive up the inside. Gavin Hansen still running a very good 2nd position. He'd be delighted with this. His lap times very consistent. Actually, I say that the last lap he just dropped about half a second to the leader, but that's as much as I've seen him drop in any single lap. I think since we started the race 15 laps ago, he's sitting around 3 seconds behind Brian Henderson, and Gavin will be absolutely delighted to have kept that little blue and yellow Honda ahead of him. Not too small in the distance, Jeremy. Good driving again by Gavin.
Exactly what he wants to do here in the early stages of this race. Stay in touch with Brian Henderson. Brian Henderson will be handing over the car to Robert Noaker, a teenager, another teenager. There's a bunch of them in TCR these days. And that number 84 car, with that strong start to the season, having got the pole position at Daytona, they fell back in the race. Unfortunately, finished just outside the top 10, but it's been another really good run for that Speedworks Atlanta Speedworks team. Unfortunately, the sister car with Greg Strelzoff in car number 94, that car still continues to struggle. It's off the pace at the back of the pack in TCR. It's been overheating all the way through the weekend, and clearly that car is not running any better in the race today.
Nice to see the McLarens back with us again. A little bit of variety, getting more and more competitive. Sheena Monk for Motorsport in Action in the white and green. Number 3 car is in 6th position at the moment and about to put a lap on the number 64 car. That isn't a battle for position. She was involved in that incident early in the race when she hit there was an earlier hit as well on Q Plum as she tried to force her way up the inside. Now that I've seen that again, actually, I think she actually was a little bit lucky to get away with that one at turn 3. Then got a clout herself as well from the Audi behind. That's what sent the carbon fibre into the air. Poor Q Plum with a broken left rear suspension. But but holding on to 6 for Sheena. Very competitive driver, and should say it, we're not apportioning, we're not saying that this is deliberate at all, but you have to remember that what IMSA are looking for, and the officials are looking for, is effectively what might be called avoidable contact, incident responsibility, and that's, as I say, Jeremy, nobody's making a value judgment and saying they did it on purpose. That's not what we expect from these drivers, and I don't think there's anybody out here would do that, but it's about incident responsibility.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's all about, and yeah, if it's no harm, no foul, then fine. But if there's it's not malice, as you say, John, but it's, you know, if it's a mistake that causes major consequences for somebody else, then there will be a penalty called. We've now got 38 minutes elapsed in this race, so this is not soon enough to make your driver change and complete the minimum driver time. So this problem for Alex Papadopoulos in the Fast MD Racing Audi. This is going to be very, very costly, running as they were in the 5th position before this pit stop.
Shea Adam is watching it for us. Looked like there was a bit of bodywork pulled off that car as well, Shea.
Yeah, haphazardly chucked at our cameraman, whether it was Michael or Morrow at that situation. Oh, no, it was Morrow. Yes, very odd stop. They came into the pit lane, they changed the rear tires, they fully refueled it. Alex Papadopoulos, though, not that far off the pace of his co-driver James Vance. Very impressive start in this car, particularly at Daytona for the Fast MD organization. And now Alex will go back out, and he's fully fueled, so he can run another 40-ish minutes before he has to come in and hand over to James so that James can meet minimum drive time.
It's an odd one, that, because it was just a little bit before the 40 minutes, so that's not a tactical stop in the truest sense of the word. They may have been struggling with a tyre going down or something like that, and basically they've had to then think on the run, but I'm absolutely guessing on that until we get news from the pit lane. At the front of the field, Dylan McAvan is just closing down a wee bit on Maxwell Route. We're talking fractions here, but it's now down under 5 seconds, and we're also getting news that that battle we were watching earlier on in TCR for position, Rory van der Steur has been attracting the attention of the race officials, Shea.
He has been warned for blocking, and now, by the way, the pit window is officially open, as it has been for 14 seconds, and we already have a caller in the form of the 93 Carbon with Peregrine Audi. I'll get to that in a second, but yes, Rory van der Steur got the ire of race control, warning for blocking, so they will be paying extra attention to that car. For the Audi, the pit stop fuel tires, and Tom Dyer installing himself behind the wheel of that car, as they just have to roll it forward ever so slightly to get the fuel probe attached. But other than that, it looks like that will be the first of our real pit stops during this race.
So it's going to be a long struggle here for Tom Dyer to get back into contention. He's going to need a full call of caution after the other contenders come in for their first pit stops. Here's also the number 10 car, which moving up into the 11th position for Anton Diaz Pereira. He will hand over this car to Scott Andrews, the Australian, who made his debut in this championship with Pereira last time out at Daytona.
Also, it looks like Brian Herter has split the strategy on the two Elantras, Shea. One has stayed out, one has come in.
Harry Gottsacker is into the pit lane, having completed minimum drive time, and he will be handing over to 2019 TCR Series champion Mark Wilkins. Welcome back from Canada, Mark. Also a 2-time winner of the Sebring 12 Hours, Mark Wilkins, so he knows how to go around here. Fuel and tires for the Hyundai Elantra as we wait for the other one to come in. But in the meantime, Dylan McAvan picked from second place in the Turner Motorsport BMW. This one is the all yellow and blue, not wearing a dual livery. This one is not a zebra, but it does have a goat. Bill Oberlin is up on the wall, and he is waiting to jump in with, guess what, sticker Michelin tires. It's Christmas for Bill.
He will then take it the remaining hour and 18 minutes. So this is the alternate car, if you will, rather than the Turner and BS competition car, which is still in the hands of Vin Barletta, running in 9th position, and only a minute away from the lead, so has steered comfortably on the lead lap. Suggests that Vin might be in shortly once they've cleared their pit area. They won't want them in there at the same time, and the car furthest up the standings gets the opportunity to come in first. A little bit of a problem with the left rear, but as the fuel is still going in, that's not an issue. The fuel should always be the determining factor, and it was there. That's a good stop for Turner, and the 95 car is back down and out. Chip?
And he's followed, actually, he's leaving the pit lane now, but the team car did come into the pit lane, Vin Barletta, in the dual livery Turner Motorsport BMW. So that is not much time at all for Turner to relax or take a deep breath, for Will Turner to take a deep breath on the pit stand. Fuel tires and Robbie Foley for this car, this one being the 96. Also into the pit lane, Ori Fadani, championship leader after the win at Daytona in the McLaren for AWA, handing over to Kuno Whitmer. We've got the 8 of McCann Racing. That Audi, which had Michael McCann Jr. in for the start, will now be handed over to the one and only Andrew Davis. And the other car of note, the number 7, that's the bright yellow one for Archangel Racing. Alan Brynjolfsson Dunn, Trent Hinman getting it.
I cannot tell you how difficult it is to strap yourself into a racing car in the time that Robbie Foley has just done it. Yes, he got some help with the radio cord and things like that from Vin getting out of the car, but to actually do up your own straps and get them into the buckle, because your helmet doesn't let you move your head down and look what you're doing, so you have to know, it has to be muscle memory. And Robbie in the car with the half and half racing suit, which is exactly opposite to the car. The Bureau soot on his suit is on the left side of the car, and the Turner is on the right, whereas the car's livery is exactly the other way around. Leader in the pit, Maxwell Root, has brought the Wright Motorsports Porsche in, Shane.
Max Root did exactly what Johnny Wright asked of him. Lead every lap that you're out there. Don't get the car damaged. Don't let anybody even see you out on track. Well, he did that, and now he's handed over the car to Jan Halen, who is not wearing his normal yellow helmet that he's saving for the race tomorrow, the 12 hours of Sebring. He instead has an all-black carbon one. So Halen getting himself pumped up and installed in the Porsche. He did get a little more help from Root than Robbie got from Vin, if you see what I mean there. We've also got Sheena Monk in the pit lane in the number 3 Nia McLaren. That one will be taken back out by Spencer Piggott. And we have the race winner from the first weekend in TCR into the pit lane. That's the number 17. Chris Miller brought it in. Mikey Taylor takes it out.
Another good stop. The eagle-eyed Alan Prosser has tweeted in at IMSA Radio, and that's how you get hold of us, by the way, that the piece of car that we saw being thrown around wasn't a piece of car at all. It's the visor and peak from one of the crew members' helmets that was getting in the way, or maybe it partially fallen off, and he's got the frame grab to prove it. That was the Audi, wasn't it, that came in for Alex Papadopoulos. So a good spot from Alan Prosser, the wonderfully entitled Twitter account Lanzarote Camel. Thanks, Alan. Well up to speed already. Jeremy Shaw, twin liveries, the BAR Formula 1 team with the zip down the middle. You remember that?
Yeah, I do, don't I? But they weren't allowed to run it, were they? I seem to recall. Wasn't it turned down, their application to run that livery?
No, they ran it because in the regs in Formula 1 at the time, and still, the two cars have to be identical, and they wanted to use two different brands from their BAR tobacco sponsorship on the cars. Now, you would have been able to do that in IMSA or in IndyCar or in NASCAR, but in Formula 1 you had to run the same liveries, so they put a zip down the middle. TCR on TCR, Hyundai on Hyundai at turn number 1, and the car coming very much off the worst there was the Copeland Motorsports number 19 machine, which has been turned around rather unceremoniously there. Sorry, not the Copeland Motorsports car, the Van der Steur Racing car, which was rather nerfed out of the way. The McLaren had just gone through. It was the Copeland Motorsport car that caused the incident, and the Van der Steur Racing car, that's very, very good to just get the foot down and point it back in the right direction. I think that might get looked at, that.
Yeah, meanwhile, by the way, there's been a change of lead in TCR. The leaders have not pitted, and this last lap around, Gavin Hansen came around ahead of Brian Henderson. I don't think we saw what happened to the Brady 4 car, did we? But they had been separated by a couple of seconds. This time, as they complete lap 20, having not yet made their pit stops, they are separated by 2 seconds the other way around.
Yeah.
Now is Sean Quidlan, who has also not yet stopped in the number 43 Stephen Cameron Racing BMW. He's one of the last contenders to come onto pit lane, as Brandon Kidd brings the automatic racing Aston Martin in, and the number 4 car of Indy Doncher. He's taken over from Russell Ward.
We've got some debris on the back straight just beside the pit lane exit. Remember, these cars are using the WEC pit lane entry and exit, and a puncture for PF. Oh, it's not been their day in the 40. Ford right front tyre is just about holding on, and that car will limp back to the pit lane. I reckon well, first of all, we might be getting a full course caution for that debut. I think we almost have to. But I reckon that Turner Motorsport have absolutely cracked the pit stop sequence, because they are now ahead of Jan Helen. Oberlin ahead of Helen, and by not an insubstantial amount of time, 6.5 seconds. So did they short fuel Oberlin to get track position when they changed? Really impressive. 4 seconds different on the stop, I'm being told by Shea Adam, who also has news about more penalties. Shea?
Unfortunately for Team TGM, the day goes from bad to worse as their better placed car, number 64, penalty, people over the wall before the car stops. That elicits the drive-through. Right. And lots of debris coming off the right front of that 40 car. We go full course yellow, full course yellow. Debris all around the circuit, shedding bits of bodywork and bits of the carcass of the right front. That must have happened very early on in the lap for the PF Mustang. Now, did Quinlan get into the pit before the yellows came out? James Pesic is still limping around. Yes, he did. Yes, he did, by 3 seconds before the full course yellow was called. So what a call from the guys at Stephen Cameron Racing. Now going to lose the lead, but that pit stop, with everybody else slowing down under the yellows, Jeremy, they are going to get a net gain out of this, I reckon.
Yeah, they are, and the other cars that hadn't yet pitted will also be good gainers here. One of them being Frank Depew in the Rebel Rock car. He will he? There's going to be a lot of cars, I think, on the lead lap. I have to wait till they come around, but he has not made his pit stop. Currently running in the 4th position is car number 71, but he still needs to hand over that car to Robin Liddell.
Yeah. But he has, I think, he has stayed on the lead lap though, hasn't he, Jeremy, Frank Depew? Yes, he has, yeah.
Yeah.
So damage to the right front of the PF car. So brake issues earlier on for that car. I wonder, well, you see, you've got to think, Jeremy, we saw that car running on at least a couple of times. You've got to wonder then if it's also maybe been locking tyres if they've got braking issues, and that's caused the flat spot, which has caused the issue with the right front. And again, it's pure speculation on my behalf, but these problems tend to link together. Safety car has been deployed. It's at the moment heading up to Tower Turn, and I'm trying to see who they're trying to pick up. They should be picking up the 95 car, shouldn't they, of Bill Oberlin. However, there are a couple of cars that needs to be waved through, because I can see a couple of the in fact they have been waved by. Excellent. The TCR Hyundais, the Brian Herter Autosport cars, look like they might have been caught behind the safety car, but they've already been waved past. So waiting now for Bill Oberlin to catch the safety car.
safety car needing to catch Bill Oberlin. That could take a while.
Yeah,
He's so fast.
If he had to go around, even at these speeds, yes, it might take a wee while. Who are the winners and losers then after the first 53 minutes of the Alan J Automotive Network 120? Well, certainly Turner Motorsport and Bill Oberlin, Jeremy, who turned that car around 4 seconds quicker than Wright Motorsport. Will that come back to bite them later on? Was there something tactical there about them just basically waiting till all 4 tyres were changed and then dropping the car? But whatever it is, it's worked for them and they have got track position. They did have about 6 seconds, of course, on Jan Halen and Wright Motorsports before the full course caution came out.
Yeah, actually, on the lap before the pit stops, the number 16 car led the number 95 BMW by 4.3 seconds. That was the gap as across the line to complete lap 19. Number 16 car was in the next time around. The number 95 car, excuse me, a lap after number 95 car came into the pits. And look, we have to see on the next round of pit stops how long their pit stops are. I fancy that the number 95 car at least would have kind of split the race into 3/3 in terms of the fuel load.
Yeah.
So not put a full fuel load in for the first one. So they will need, they won't need a full tank, but they'll need 3/4 of a tank of fuel on their second stop. The number 16 car, if they put a full tank in this time, they will need a shorter stop next time around. So the strategies can alter as the race goes towards its conclusion. So it's too early to say because they're not going to tell us how much fuel they put on board those cars at the pit stops. So we're going to have to wait and see. But that is the most likely conclusion I would take for that, because the number 16 team, Wright Motorsports, they're very accomplished. They know how to make their pit stops. It didn't seem, I think we saw some video of that shot, and there didn't seem to be any problems during the pit stop. And I'm sure it would have been a good in-lap from Max Root and a good out-lap from Jan Halen. So it's certainly interesting that they changed positions, and this is going to make a fascinating contest from here to the end. So the top 3 then have already made their pit stops. The 4th place car, Frank Depew, has not, so he will be in once the pits are opened. The next 3 cars on the racetrack are the TCR leaders in 5th, 6th and 7th places overall. Gavin Ernstone in the number 61 Audi, then the 2 Hondas of Brian Henderson, car number 84, and Mike Lamara in car number 73. Those also yet to make their first pit stop. So this caution period will favour the teams that have already made their pit stops. And in TCR, that would include how far we've got to go down? Got to go quite a long way down before we see the first team that has made a pit stop, and in fact that will be Parker Chase, I believe, who's right now in 11th place. He and his Brian Herder Elantra teammate Mark Wilkins, kind of 33. Those two have both made their pit stops already, as has the 2 cars behind them, which is 19 and 17. So they, I think, all will be on the lead lap, and they will cycle to the front when the other cars ahead of them come in to make their scheduled pit stops.
I do like, on a race of this length, actually on a race of any length, but particularly these Michelin Pilot Challenge races, I do like that tactic of splitting the race into thirds, thereby doing 2 pit stops, which are potentially slightly shorter than the long stop that somebody is going to do. The disadvantage of it, Jeremy, is that in terms of strategy, you might not have quite enough fuel on board to go long if you want to go long, and once you've made that decision, you're rather tied into it, and you've got to hope that the race itself falls around what you want to do.
Yeah, indeed. So it's a gamble in some ways, and whether the gamble pays off, there is some luck involved. There's also a lot of strategic nous goes into making those decisions of when you make your pit stop.
Which Frank Depew is doing right now for Rebel Rock Racing, the distinctive blue and white helmet of Scotsman Robin Liddell about to get in. Adam.
Cast your mind back to, well, November, not quite a year ago. It was about 30 seconds that Frank Depew was short on drive time, meaning that they had to make an emergency trip down to the pit lane when they were running in second with almost no time left in the race. Well, today, Frank Depew has done his time and then some. So Robin Liddell should be leaving the pit lane after this and only needing to come back down it for a quick splash of fuel. Also into the pits, we have the 64 Team TGM Camaro. That one still owes us a drive-through, but of course that penalty cannot be served under a full course caution condition. We had fuel for Trent Hinman in the yellow Aston Martin for Archangel Motorsport. And then, of course, the PF Racing Mustang is back into the pit lane. Fuel, driver change, and tires. So now it is Chad McCumbee behind the wheel of that one.
Was Shea Adamar, VP Racing Fuel Pit Paddock reporter, Jeremy Shaw and John Hindhoff in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. Looks like we'll probably go into the second half of the race before we go back to green flag racing. So Gavin Hansen is now leading TCR. How did he get ahead of Brian Henderson, Jeremy?
Well, we talked about that. He passed him just a couple of laps before the caution period came out.
Gav.
We didn't see why or how. All of a sudden, he had been 2 seconds behind Brian Henderson.
Yes.
The next lap around, he was 2 seconds ahead of him. It was just a slow lap by Brian Henderson. Whether he had an off or whether he was hit by somebody else, we didn't see. But yes, that position change had taken place just a couple of laps before the caution period.
Yeah, he dropped back to only about 3 seconds, was as far back as he got. So really good drive by Gav, and leading the race then before the caution. Steve Tadman tweets us at IMSA Radio saying Sebring looks like it's made for the TCR class. Some really great battles going on. I'm guessing the damper settings would have been played with a lot because of the bumps. Would this advantage some teams over others? Depends how good your suspension guy is, I suppose, Steve. Sorry, I'm being slightly facetious there, Steve, and I didn't really mean to be. I suspect what Steve is asking there, Jeremy, is whether it favours some models of cars rather than others. Normally, if you've got a slightly longer wheelbase car, the car's slightly longer between the wheels, it tends to be a little bit better over the bumps. And I have to say, I'm not au fait with which of the TCR cars might be a little longer between the wheels. But just to look at it, it would suggest to me the Hondas were a bit shorter, but they are going very well at the moment.
Yeah, they are. And, I mean, there hasn't been much to choose between the TCR cars, it seems, in terms of speed. Last year, the Hyundais definitely hadn't. They'd earned themselves an advantage over everybody else, but that was definitely narrowed down towards the end of the season by some changes to the balance of performance. So we saw at Daytona the new sequential gearboxed Audi was very much the class of the field there, but I think we'll have to wait and see now in the second part of this race. I think those sequential Audis are going to be in pretty good shape. The bad news, of course, for the number 61 car that currently leads is that they have not yet made their first pit stop. The good news is, however, as they're coming in right now, actually.
Yes, exactly.
But the good news is that the cars that have already made their stops, if we go green from here to the end, they might well need another pit stop before the end of the race. We are now almost exactly at half distance in this 2-hour contest. It's an hour, actually just over, because it's an hour and 1 minute has elapsed. So they should be able to get to the end from here. These cars in TCR that are pitting right now. The question is, the cars have already made their stop, are they going to need a splash before the end of the race? That's something we're going to have to keep a close eye on.
It will help that they're under full course yellow at the moment. Shea Adam down watching the pit stops for the leading TCR runners that had not stopped.
Everyone in TCR came into the pits except for Dennis Dupont in that 19 for Van der Steur Racing in the Audi. So let me give you a quick update on what's been going on. The 61 driver change, John Morley in for Gavin Ernstone. Brian Henderson into the pit lane in the 84. I said a few moments ago because I got an answer on that. It was a soft brake pedal that was going wrong on that car that allowed Gavin Ernstone to get by in the Honda. That's going to be an extra long stop to the Atlanta Speedworks car before they put Robert Noaker in. They're going to make sure that the brakes are still okay on the 84. We had the 73 Honda in. That was Mike Lamara bringing it in. Matt Pombo taking it back out. 2 new tires, where you can guess they're on the front. Pit stop as well for the 88 Honda The 77 Hyundai, Taylor Hagler, they changed drivers. AJ Muss is also out of the 51 Hyundai. But of note, we had the 33 back down the pit lane. That was Mark Wilkins, splashed and dashed for that car. They had already done their long stop. That means that Mark is now good to go to the end.
Yeah, very, very smart thinking by the cars that Jeremy mentioned. Now having made 2 stops, but of course they didn't need a full tank of fuel, and they'd already changed their Michelin tyres, so they basically refilled the car to full again and sent them, so they'll get track position out of that. That was smart thinking on the fly. More brake fluid being added to the Atlanta Speedworks Honda. Another car, Jeremy, as we heard from that VP Racing Fuel pit and paddock report from Shea, another car with braking problems this weekend.
Yeah, it would seem so, and it's been a challenging weekend for this number 84 team. That the 84 cars run beautifully, is second pole in as many races, and leading for a goodly portion of the first stint. We're having a long stop now. The other car, the sister car, number 94 of Greg Strelzoff and Ryan Eversley, who finished second at Daytona. They've had problems all weekend long, and the car's been overheating, and they clearly haven't been able to figure it out, because Greg Strelzoff, he's a quick driver, but his lap times were nowhere near the proper pace through the first hour of this race.
Just hearing from eyes around the track, thanks Steph for this, the PF Mustang still with a problem, right rear tyre catching bodywork by the sound of it, so we'll keep an eye on that, and if that's it, even at the reduced pace, that could be a real issue. First full course yellow of the Alan J Automotive Network 120. Hello to one of the Orange Army, Chris Humphreys, back in the UK. Missed the first 30 minutes or so, but is catching up now. Asks, is this the first FCY? Yes, it is. Thanks for all your hard work at circuits and your colleagues as well, Chris. We'll say to all of the flaggers, marshals, track services, thank you very much indeed for all your hard work. So 55 minutes still to go, and we're going back to green. And a single file restart. There's a couple of cars off the back of the train, including, well, 54 and 88, definitely I can see around the other side of the circuit. That's the Michael Johnson Racing TCR Hyundai for Stephen Simpson. The 88 is the VGMC Racing Honda as well, as we go back to green. And Bill Oberlin under pressure. Jan Helen tries to get down the inside, but that was a very small gap for the Wright Motorsports car, but Bill Oberlin's gone very wide indeed in turn 1, and Halen managed to hold the inside line. That Porsche was absolutely superb there, despite starting off on exactly the wrong racing line. It really didn't seem as though Jan Halen would be able to tighten the lock, but he did, and he goes through into the lead. And Jan Halen leads for Wright Motorsports. So all of the tactics, all of the hard work, whatever else went on at Turner Motorsport to turn the 4.5 second deficit into 6.5 second lead before the yellow flags came out has gone in the blink of an eye. Jan Halen leads, Oberlin second, Indy Dunshee for Winward Racing installed after a good first stint from Russell Ward, then AWA Kuno Whitmer in the McLaren number 13 right in there as well. Really good restart there from Jan Halen, putting pressure on Bill Oberlin. Not often, Jeremy Shaw, that you see Bill Oberlin pressured into a mistake.
That's a fact. Yeah, you don't see that very often at all. He's one of the guys who's generally bulletproof about those. He's so reliable, so experienced, so fast still. But there's a long way to go in this race. But he will know also that this Porsche 718 Cayman GT4 Club Sport, it's super quick this weekend. And he also wants to make sure that he brings his Turner Motorsport BMW in the best position he can. I don't think it would appear from practice and qualifying that the BMW quite has the pace of the Porsche this weekend. So therefore, if he can come home in second position, that's going to be he'll be delighted with that.
Big swerve across to the right-hand side of the track from Indy Donchi. He was defending against Kuno Wittmer. Behind in the McLaren, the black and yellow car. They come out of turn 17 on radically different lines. Who gets the best run to the line? Well, for the moment at least, it's Kuno Wittmer as Alex Papadopoulos in Fast MD's Audi dives into the pit lane out of that fight. And this is a cracking scrap going on for third position. It's allowing Bill Oberlin and Jan Heylen to slightly get away, and again the McLaren tightens the line on the exit of turn number 1. Now, is it sent down the inside? No, Donchi covers onto the left-hand side of the track for the left-hander at turn 3. Moving around a little bit here, that will be being watched by race control. This is not Europe, Indy, and you've raced here enough. You make one move and stick to it. You cannot react to the car behind, Jeremy.
That's exactly right.
Well, that's fine. He went early. He went early there. That's fine. Yeah.
And again, you've got to pick your battles, though. I mean, the McLaren is fast. I mean, it was a dominant force at Daytona. It's also super quick here. Kuno Wittmer, I think, was quickest in the second quickest in the practice sessions, and Ori Fidani qualified second only to the Porsche. So he's got to be careful here. I think McLaren is faster, and Indy has again got to do what Bill Oberlin is clearly doing out front. He's not happy that he's being overtaken, but at least right now Oberlin is in that second place, and because of this defence that Indy Donchi is putting up over Kuno Wittmer, Bill Oberlin is now able to extend his lead over this battle for third place that is going on behind and between Mercedes and the McLaren.
Shea Adam, we're looking at this as an individual race. Of course we are, because that's what we do. But in championship terms, there's very different agendas going on from the guys at the front of the field.
Championship, we're in race 2, and already I'm looking at the points, so everybody thinks I'm crazy. All right, leading the field, Jan Heylen missed Daytona, not in the championship, doesn't matter. Second place, Bill Oberlin, second in points. To whom, you might be asking? The orange and black McLaren of AWA. They lead the way, so right now Kuno Wittmer knows, easy, stay ahead in points, stay ahead of Oberlin.
Bill Oberlin races with his head, and always has done. Robbie Foley right in that battle as well, right in behind Spencer Pigot. Hugh Plum into the pit lane in the number 46 that had the damage to the left rear early on for TGM and their Camaro. So Heylen's pulled away by about a second. Oberlin and Wittmer scrapping together. Oberlin rather ahead of Wittmer by 3.5, and Wittmer, Donchi, Pigot, Foley all scrapping together. Rick Voss is right in there as well for Murillo Racing in the chrome, almost cinnamon coloured car. Down the inside for the McLaren. Oh, Indy turns in. He's lost 2 places to McLaren there. Down at turn 7, turn into the second of them, and that is Spencer Pigot for the Motorsports in Action, the Mia McLaren. So Donchi now down into 5th position.
And the guy to watch right now is Trent Hinman, who's absolutely flying in the Volt racing with Archangel Aston Martin Advantage GT4. He took the restart in the 13th position. He's already up inside the top 10 in that brightly liveried car number 7. And he has also set the fastest lap of the race. He did that just before we went to full course caution on a fresh set of Michelin tyres, having just taken over that car from Alan Brynjolfsson. So keep an eye on that car number 7.
Yeah, and all of that defence that was going on by Indy Donchi was what closed up the 4th to really 8th, 9th, almost even 10th position. Trent's got a couple of seconds to make up on Greggy Leofurg in the Stephen Cameron Racing M4 BMW, but it's not going to take him long if he keeps turning in the lap times that he has. 2:11.225 was 1.2 seconds quicker than that number 43 BMW ahead of him, so that is going to come down very quickly indeed. Bill Oberlin puts in the fastest lap of the race in 2nd position, 2:11.005. Oh, penalty for the 88 car. Shea Adam, this is an interesting one.
pass under yellow, so this is a penalty for the TCR Honda that was doing so well earlier on. By the way, Owen Trinkler in the 64 still yet to serve the penalty. He's now had a couple of laps under green flag. He needs to do it, or else the car is going to stop being scored.
So overtaking under a yellow is an absolute no-no. The field at that point of the track, or full course if it is frozen. It's almost always, well, it is for safety procedures, and therefore the penalty is handed down. TCR battles then, with Van der Steur Racing leading in the 19 Hyundai Veloster. Then it's Unitronic in that yellow, white and black TCR Audi, the number 17. John Morley in third, even after the stops. So that's worked out really well for them. They've managed to hold on to their position. Then Matt Pombo for LA Honda World Racing. And John under attack from Matt at turn 17. Got a little love tap. I'm here. Hi, John. Hi, John. It's your mate. Hello. Yes, me in the Honda. Hello. Just a little friendly reminder. Don't forget, we are looking for the pilot moment of the race. My two co-commentators and I will be working that one out. Into the pits, the 96, Robbie Foley, Shea Adam.
This might just be a splash of fuel for Robbie Foley with the Turner Motorsport normal overalls, or at least it looks that way from the onboard camera on Robbie Foley. He hit his helmet against the back as if he's looking for something or as if he's frustrated. Comes into the box, stops on his marks perfectly, shuts the car off, waiting to be told to restart and then go again. I think this is just a splash of fuel. Car is still on all four of its tires, and Robbie is actually using the passenger mirror to find out when it is safe to go yet again.
Must be a rear tyre. Must be a rear tyre. Not sure why he shuts it off. He doesn't need to, does he?
John, I think he can get to the end from here. He's going to need a second pit stop in any case. We've got 45 minutes remaining in this race, so come in if you feel amongst the first to make your final stop. Then if there is another full course caution, you're going to cycle your way to the front as long as you can extend the lead lap, which he was running in the top 6, so he should be able to do that. So if there isn't a problem, I would suggest that would be pretty much okay for that team.
That could be the Michelin Pilot moment of the race, if that wins the race for them, because he has, as you rightly say, Jeremy, make your last stop first. It's one of those adages in motorsport, but it's become that because it's right for most of the time. Down the inside, turn 7, Murillo Racing, number 56 AMG, and that is Eric Foss fighting away, and that was the BMW behind him. That's the the tangerine and blue car, and that is the 43 Stephen Cameron Racing LLC machine, and right in behind them is the Charging Fault Racing with Archangel driver Trent Hinman. As Jeremy said, he was on a bit of a charge. He's now made that. Here's the other Turner car coming in, so I reckon, Jeremy, that Will Turner's crunched the numbers, and in comes the leader as well. So first and second share in the pit lane.
Robbie Foley, trendsetter. No, but he's never heard that before, as it is fuel only for Jan Halen is also into the pit lane. Trent Hinman, and as you rightly noted, Bill Oberlin. So 3 of the cars that we are used to seeing at the front of the field currently getting fuel only. Away goes Jan Halen. That was great athleticism by the refueler, actually, to pull himself up off of the Porsche with the slanting nose and then move himself out of position of danger, waiting for the BMW. Fuel probe is still attached. How much fuel does Bill Oberlin need to get to the end of this one? Still going. Where's the Porsche? Porsche's going to be making it out first. How close is Bill?
Closer than I thought. I'll be honest, that's closer than I thought it would be, Jeremy.
That's about to say, that's about 4 or 5 seconds or so, and that's about what we expected, because that was how much shorter the first pit stop was for number 16 car than the 95. And so a little bit longer than that, I think it was actually the gap between them. Also onto the pit lane there was Trent Hinman in number 7 Aston Martin, also making its final stop as well.
The athleticism to which she referred at the Porsche is filled into the hood, the bonnet area, because obviously being a mid-engine car, normally you'd put your shopping in there, but the fuel tank is up front on those mid and indeed rear engine Porsches, the 911s and the 718 Boxsters and Caymans. So that's why the fuel fill is on the front end.
In TCR, the number 17, the two sequential Audis are running second and third now. The 17 car with Mikey Taylor ahead of John Morley, who's taken over from Gavin Ernstone, and they are tracking down the race leader Denis Dupont from Belgium. He's got quite a bit of experience in TCR in Europe. He's living now in Montreal in Canada, but he is Belgian by nationality, and he leads the class now, having taken over from Rory van der Steur. But I think those two, it's not going to be long before it's not going to be long, I think, before both Mikey Taylor and John Morley are right on his gearbox. So that's going to be a battle for the lead in TCR very, very soon.
Yeah, there is a weight penalty for that sequential box. It's a bit heavier than the DSG, but the shifts are a little bit quicker. It also needs to be rebuilt a little more often, is what I'm told, because it's a much more of a delicate racing item. But you can gain a little bit of lap time, and you know what? That's what it's all about, really, isn't it? Shay, fuel times from the pit lane. What do you have?
Well, this is interesting because the 16 Wright Motorsport Porsche was in the pit lane 55 seconds total. The BMW was in for 58 seconds. So when you include the decimal places afterwards, it's very close to being a 3-second difference. But Trent Hinman, when you throw him into the equation, 52 seconds in the pit lane. So he made up 6 seconds on Bill Oberlin with that stop.
So well into the second half of the race, we're assessing our pilot moment of the race at both GS and at TCR. Announced that before the end of the race, and whoever it is, each of those classes will get a set of tyres from Michelin. By the way, interesting, whilst I'm talking about tyres and the tyres, Sebring, a very, very unusual circuit for a number of reasons, not least, even if you put the bumps to one side, and how can you, but it's partially concrete and partially asphalt tarmac, and that means that there is a difference in the track temperature between the two different surfaces. How much? Well, our Michelin Sport engineers have let us know that on the concrete it's 93 Fahrenheit, whereas it's 100 on the asphalt, so 7 degrees Fahrenheit difference on the track temperature on the different surfaces of the track, and that has to be built into the equation when you're thinking of starting pressures and temperatures for your tyres and how you warm those tyres up. 40 minutes to go, well inside the window for a GS car to get to the end. Problems for the number 4 at the moment, Indy Donchi, having made his stop, and this is what you don't want. He's fighting through a gaggle of battling TCR cars. A couple of cars further back now, 3 cars farther back is Bill Oberlin for Turner Motorsport as he's trying to come through. Both of those cars have made their final pit stop. Just trying to see who is the best place, Jeremy, of the GS cars that's made their final pit stop. It's Jan Halen, isn't it, of course, for Wright Motorsport, who at the moment is sitting down in a lowly 16th position and 10th in class, but he's heading to a end of a race from here, down the inside for the PF Mustang, inside of 2 TCR cars, right on the start-finish line. Little dab of the brakes to make sure he's got the temps up.
Lead battle there, TCR. That's the number 17 car going ahead of the number 19. So Mikey Taylor takes the lead. The dominant winner at Daytona, Mikey Taylor, that white, black and yellow Unitronics JDC Miller Motorsports team, takes the lead from Denis Dupont in the red, white and blue Van der Steur Racing entry, but right with them also is John Morley in the dark blue Road Shagger Racing Audi.
Yes, so important when you're passing those cars, you don't get really involved if you're a GS car with a bit more performance potential, don't get involved in the battle for the lead. That's extremely bad racing etiquette. Yes, everybody's got their races to run, but those guys are racing for a race victory, whereas the 40 car, of course, having had its trials and tribulations today, is down in 18th position in class. Chad McCumbee clearly wanting to get up the field and try and get back on terms, but 4 laps away from the lead in class. IMSA Radio and IMSA TV together. Round 2 of the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge for 2020. Jeremy Shaw with me, John Hindhaugh, in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. Shea Adam on duty as the VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock reporter. And starting to see some pit stops now. Shea Adam from the lead of the race, the AWA Aston Martin Kuno Whitmer in the pits.
Yeah, the McLaren into the pit lane. Kuno staying aboard fuel and tires. They are doing 4 tires on this McLaren, trying to give Kuno the best possibility of an advantage that they possibly can. Now, the McLarens are different than the other GT4 cars that run in this series. They have 1 center locking wheel nut instead of the 5 studs, which means they get 1 wheel gun over the wall instead of 2. So the pit stop takes slightly longer for the McLaren, and they did actually have the fuel nozzle removed before the car was down off the jacks and rolling once again. So that is a slight issue for them. But Kuno Whitmer, if there's anyone who can make up the position, it's got to be that guy.
And share some news from race control, something that we mentioned earlier on.
Indy Donchi, warning for blocking. So now race control is aware of his behavior. The next time he does it, it will be a lot more severe than a warning.
Yeah, and the issue there is, I know it's not how you really should look at it, but he's used up his warning, fighting a battle he wasn't going to win, Jeremy. And that, I'm not sure how smart that was for Indy, who's a very smart racing driver normally. And that car fighting its way through traffic at the moment in 8th place in GS, some 5 seconds behind the Wright Motorsports Jan Halen driven Porsche as they're coming back through the field. They've got another quartet of TCR cars ahead of them. Watch out, by the way, for Rebel Rock Racing in the Chevrolet Camaro in 6th position. Robin Liddell now just a 2.5 seconds away from the LAP Motorsports number 10 Mercedes, and Robin's just put his fastest lap of the race in, a 2:12.3, with cars stopping ahead of him. Of course, he was last in the pit lane when he took that car over from Frank Depew, so he's been out there since his 12th lap out of the pits. He could go a ways yet, but he's in the window to get to the end from here, Jeremy.
He is, and quite a few people turning their fastest laps. Indy Doncher has just turned his best lap. Spencer Piggott, who's in the lead of this race now for the Motorsports in Action McLaren team in car number 3. He has yet to make his final pit stop. He's just turned his best lap. Gregory Learfouge in the Stephen Cameron racing BMW in 2nd place, car number 43. He just sent green in sector 2. But this battle for TCR is absolutely tremendous. 3 cars absolutely nose to tail, and the number 73 car is right in the battle as well. That's Mark Pombo in the LA Honda World Honda. He's also right in the thick of it as well. We've got 4 cars coming by not very much TCR way, hasn't he? But the rest of them are pretty much 3 abreast into turn 1 for 2nd place.
Touch.
TCR.
I think there was a touch there, and a second touch as well, and John Morley's the one that gets pinballed off the side of the circuit at turn 1. Somehow managed to hang on to it. Hyundai and Audi, first of all, was what was the catalyst for that, and then the Honda, I think, just tapping John whilst he was already a little bit unsettled. The Mercedes goes down the inside, different class. 19 gets together, yeah, and there's a second touch there. They're very lucky to get out of that without damage, yeah. Jeremy Shaw.
Yeah, that was a close one, wasn't it? I think it was that Dave Dupont, I think, who got completely sideways, having made a little bit of contact with number 61 car. He's used to driving his TCRs, his front wheel drive cars. He just nailed the throttle and it kind of pulled the front end ahead of pulled the front end of the car ahead of the back end, so he didn't spin it. But a good save by both of those two.
Shea Adam news of another car behind the wall.
Which one was that one? I didn't see that.
81 has just gone behind the wall. That's the CB Motorsports Mark Varmey and Trenton S-Step car. We'll get you some news on that in a little while. We're into the closing stages, officially at the closing stage of the race, with getting on for half an hour, just on half an hour of the race still to go. So the last quarter of this race to play out with tactics perhaps still to come into it. We've still got a few cars at the head of the field who have not yet stopped, Jeremy, and I think those cars now, the top, what is it, 4 who are pushing on, they're going to run to the end of their fuel now, aren't they? And just hope that they can do a wee splash at the end and spend as little time in pit lane as possible whilst turning good laps now. That's they've thrown the dice at that effect now.
Yeah, that's right. But Spencer Pigot is still turning some very good laps. One minute 12.5 last time around. His previous 2 laps were 12.19 and 12.21. So turning very consistent fast times at the front of the field is Spencer Pigot, and he's brand new to this series. This is just his second start in the Michelin Pilot Challenge Series. The IMSA Michelin team, of course, they've got a lot of experience here and a lot of success in the past. But it was a good first stint by Sheena Monk, and now Spencer Pigot is enjoying himself at the front of the field. This is his home racetrack. He was actually born in California, lived for the early part of his years in North Carolina, but Florida has been the family's home for a long, long time, up in the Windermere, Orlando area. So Spencer has spent a lot of time here at Sebring International Raceway over the years, and he's enjoying himself at the front of the field at the moment.
Mentioned a moment or two ago the problems for some of the cars. Shea has an update on the number 84 Atlanta Speedworks car. It was braking issues for that car earlier on, Shea.
Yeah, and a lot bigger braking issues than they even thought. It had just been a soft pedal, as reported by Brian Henderson. Well, they got it into the pit lane. They got it then behind the wall, and when they got to the brake line, they noticed that it had split and broke and was dumping fluid into the back of the car. So that was the issue, and we will not be seeing the 84 back out on track again. Really bad news, because Brian Henderson, what a drive for his opening stint.
Yeah, that's very dangerous as well, because brake fluid is very flammable. Very flammable indeed. Of the 4 cars at the front, Robin Liddell is in the best position in terms of fuel. I'm not for a moment suggesting that he could get to the end of the race, but he's on his 15th lap of the stint. The LMP Motorsport Mercedes, Scott Andrews ahead of him, is on his 21st. Gregory Leafuger is on his 17th, and Spencer Pigot, leading the race at the moment in the McLaren, is on his 19th. As I say, not suggesting at all that Robert Liddell can go to the end, but that means of those top 4 cars, he needs the smallest amount of fuel, which means he needs to stand still the least amount of time to get that fuel in to the Camaro. He's not going to hold on to his position. He's 25 seconds ahead of Jan Helen, who is lapping a wee bit quicker than Robin at the moment. So the question is going to be, when do those cars jump? For the first 3, it can't be very long, but as I say, Robin probably 3 or 4 laps minimum better off than all of those cars ahead of him. Moment or 2 ago, turn 1 claims another victim. The Turner Motorsport BMW of Bill Oberlin.
Yeah, losing a position, I think, to Indy Doncher.
Indeed so.
Yeah,
indeed so, the Winwood car.
Well, that's effectively for second position once the other guys have made their pit stops, because Bill Oberlin was about 7 seconds behind Jan Helen. He was as they crossed the line to complete lap 37. And now he's lost that position to Indy Doncher, and Trent Hinman is closing in on those 2 as well in number 7 Aston Martin.
Yeah, it's a good point you make there, Jeremy, about what that means. That means Bill Oberlin has indeed dropped out of the second spot of the cars that have made what we believe will be their last pit stop. TCR battles continue with the DuPont-driven Van der Steur racing car, and Matt Pombo still having a fantastic scrap over 3rd and 4th position. as Shea Adam can give us more updates on cars that have been suffering. This time it's the Brian Herder Autosport with Curb, Agajanian, Hyundai Elantra. Shea.
Well, they haven't exactly been suffering, but they came into the pit lane when everybody else did their pit stops. They just came back down the pit lane for a splash. And they also took front tires because they realized that they couldn't make it, which means that we should be seeing more and more TCR cars down the pit lane too, because everybody came in at the same time. And as a matter of fact, the leader is in right now. Mikey Taylor, the South African who leads the TCR points after one race weekend alongside Chris Miller, is back down the pit lane. Let's see if he does only fuel or if they give him tires too. Ooh, there's new Michelins up on the wall, so this is going to be an interesting fight to the end.
They need a wee bit more than a splash, because you wouldn't put two tyres on if it was going to cost... Oh no, this is going to cost them time. The fuel line is out, Shea, and they're nowhere near getting those tyres changed.
7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, and there's a problem with the left front too. Okay, they've now lost about 15 seconds, and the right front tire is going on. The left front tire is sitting lamely on the pit lane, though, as they've noticed something within that portion of the car, which means, by my maths, by the end of this race, we're going to have a new championship leader, because it's not going to be the 17.
I think it's it looks like it's a hub or a brake issue on that car, and that would not, if it is a brake issue, that would not be the first one we've seen. So that is, I'm afraid, very bad news for the championship leader. John Morley's gone through into the lead there, Jeremy, in the Roadshagger Racing Audi RS3 TCI. He's got a couple of seconds on the Honda in second, but surely after all of what we've seen, if people are feeling that they can't go to the end, and Brian Herder Autosport don't normally get their calculations wrong. Well, is this going to be another great drive from John Morley, but this time not perhaps for speed, but for fuel economy? That's what he could be looking at here.
And strategy. You know, I mean, they stayed out longer than most of the other contenders as well. But you know, and right now he's taken advantage of that. It was a good stop. They were able to get back up to the back of the field before he went back to green, having made that pit stop. And now he's charging hard. And you know, clearly the sequential Audi is a very, very fast car in TCR at the moment. But they've executed perfectly so far.
Yeah, and don't forget he was off the road not so very long ago in turn one. Gavin Hansen did an hour and 6 minutes before he came into the pits. That was 23 laps, the last two of which were under yellow. At the moment, John has been out some 30 minutes and his first lap was under yellow. That would suggest to me that he will be able to get to the end without stopping, and if that is the case, that'll be fabulous. Really, really good for them and the team. Possible candidate for the pilot moment of the race there in TCR. Still the battle going on, by the way, between Bill Oberlin and Indy Donchi for effective second position when all the pit stops play out. Bill, if you remember, went off the road a little while ago and gave that position up. I think he's just got it back, hasn't he?
I think he has, yes. As we see our race leader, Spencer Piggott, who's been coming under increasing pressure from Gregory Leofouche, by the way. He's up to close to be within a second of him, just closing in a couple or 3/10 of a second per lap at most. But Spencer Piggott now brings that the Mia Motorsports in Action McLaren to its pit stop for what should be this car's final stop of the day. It'll fall quite a long way back down the order, but it's been a good run for Sheila Monk and Spencer Piggott.
Shea Adam is watching the pit stop.
Fuel and front tires for this car, they are refueling the entire time that they are changing the tires. So the GS car is needing a lot more fuel than the TCRs. Remember, they have different fuel allotments and different burn rates. It was a very good stop by the Mia crew, and there was a tiny bit of damage that I spotted on the right front of that car after the first lap contact with car number 46 from Team TGM, their Camaro, remember. But clearly not slowing the car down too much for Spencer at all. Further back in the pit lane, also that number 10 for LAP Motorsport, their Mercedes. That will be Scott Andrews staying aboard that Mercedes. And somebody else just dove into the pit lane. It's TCR. It's number 19, Denny DePaul, who was the only TCR car that did not come down the pit lane when everybody else did. Well, now he's making his final stop, and this should be a significant longer one than the other TCR pit stops we've seen, because he's going to need a lot more fuel.
And bad news if you're a follower of the Unitronic JDC Miller Motorsports team. Mikey Taylor's been back in the pits again. That was a pit lane speed violation, and that has dropped him an awful lot of real estate down the field in the TCR category, currently led by John Morley for Rojaga Racing. Gavin Hansen had done the first hour and 6 minutes of the race, and that car has got the fastest lap of the race as well. Sits currently in 9th position overall, with more TCR pit stops ongoing. Share with 22.5 minutes still to go.
They did fuel and front tires for Denny DePaul, so it was more significant than just the refueling. And now he'll be sent back out for the remainder of this race. 22 minutes to go, and as you rightly say, Mikey Taylor still sitting on the pit lane. They're still working on that left front wheel. And yes, if they do manage to get the car back out, they'll have to make an immediate trip back down the pit lane to serve the drive-through, speeding 1 click over the limit.
I'm not sure what's going on there. They've got a heat blanket there, which I think they're using to try and stop the rotor spinning. Is there something caught in there, or is there a brake pad that's gone awry? But this is really bad news for championship contenders. You would have to say that number 17 team. You expected to see them doing so very, very well here this weekend. So at the front of the field now, just 2 cars, Jeremy Shaw, that have not made their final pit stop. The Stephen Cameron Racing BMW GT M4 GT4, which has 12 seconds on Robin Liddell. Robin with nearly 20 seconds on Jan Hill, and that was 25 the last time that I looked. A 13.4 last time around for Robin. Jan 12.2, so more than a second better off for the chasing pack.
Yeah, more than a second quicker is Jan Halen than the Chevrolet's been whittling that gap back down by about 1.5 seconds a lap, actually, over the last 7 or 8 laps. But in the meantime, Indy Doncher now, he's got his mirrors full of the bright yellow Volt Racing with Archangel Aston Martin of Trent Hindman, and this is the battle is going to be continuing now, and just ahead of both of them, of course, is Bill Oberlin in the Turner Motorsports BMW. I don't think any of these guys have anything for Jan Halen. The gap between Halen and Bill Oberlin is stabilised around about 8 seconds. I would think that's probably more that Jan Halen is kind of controlling the race at this stage. His last time around was a 2 minutes 12. His and the fastest lap of the race, a 2 minutes 10.8 for Jan Halen. And that is, by the way, a new lap record. The old standard was Robin Liddell set last year in the Chevrolet at 2 minutes 10.933. The new standard, 2 minutes 10.889 for Jan Halen.
Yeah, and whilst we're talking about Rebel Rock Racing and Robin Liddell, I don't think Robin will be trying to take that lap record back at the moment. He's going as long as he can into this race. Going to need some yellow to get him home. Quite a bit of yellow, I would have thought. But as we said earlier on, the die has been cast for them now. So they'll go as long as they can and then take as little amount of fuel as they can to get back out of the track. They know they're going to lose track position, but maybe pick up a top 6, top 7 finish. And the Rebel Rock Racing rookie season documentary coming soon. Adrian Bonvento, the director, been working hard to put the viewer in the driver's seat with audio and video that is particularly immersive. Keep an eye out on social media channels. You should be following Rebel Rock Racing. If you aren't, do it straight away on Twitter. And the trailer in itself has sold me into that one. Can't wait to see that one come out later in the year. Coming soon, as they say in movie circles. Trent Hindman goes for another position down the inside into turn 1, and Indy Donchi this time not fighting, almost like a soccer player on a yellow card. He's been warned for blocking already knows he couldn't pull to the inside there, and he's now fighting the battles he thinks he can win. It was a 2:12.4 last time around for Hindman, and a 2:12.1 for Indy Doncic, for Hindman, sorry, 2:12.1 and 2:12.4 for Doncic last time around. Can Trent Hindman bridge the gap and get further up the field? Might be here something better even than the net third place, Jeremy, that Trent Hindman is holding on to at the moment.
Yeah, it's been a brilliant performance, really, hasn't it, by Volt Racing with Archangel, because they started at the back, having made the mistake with the preparation of the car. The wrong spring was on the back. After Brynjolfsson qualified third, they had to start at the back because they failed post-qualifying technical inspection. Then there was a drive-through for Brynjolfsson after the incident early in the race. The timing of their pit stop was, I think, propitious. They stopped just before the cautionary period came out. They came in again for a splash of fuel during the cautionary period, and then stopped again once they could get to the end. So I think it's been a great strategic race, and certainly that number 17 for me would be very much a pick for that Michelin Pilot. Was it moment of the race?
Yes, moment of the race.
Yeah, very much so for me.
On the fly, they wouldn't have expected to have had to take that penalty. They wouldn't have expected to start at the back, so you start to change the planning. Very good. So let me just go through again at the front of the field. Two cars yet to stop. The leader, Stephen Cameron BMW, surely. The Stephen Cameron should be Cameron Camaro, shouldn't it, really? It would work better. Being chased by a Camaro. 2 laps worse off on fuel than Robin Liddell. Greg Lieberger looking at lap 23 since he came out of the pit lane. 21 for Robin Liddell as they're out on the circuit at the moment. If you prefer it in time, well, 4 yellow flag laps for Lieberger at the start of that. He's been out there 51, call it 52 minutes at the moment, whereas Liddell, who had just 2 yellow flag laps at the start of his stint, has been out there 45 minutes since he came out. There's 15 minutes to go. No doubt in my mind they will need fuel. The question is, how much? How far can they go into this race? And what still is to unwind in terms of any drama on the track? Could it help them? Might it hinder them? Drama? In
one of these races?
In a Pilot Challenge race? Never. Never going to happen. John Morley still leading TCR, 11th position overall, with around about a second and a half over Matt Pombo, but he's got Scott Andrews in between him in the Mercedes. And in fact, no, Scott's just gone through. So that's a battle that's starting to warm up again at the front of TCR.
Very much so, yeah. Matt Pombo is really charging hard in that number 73 car, the yellow Honda World entry, and he's not giving up. He knows how quick the sequential Audi is, but the Hondas they had a new lease of life towards the end of last season when they got a break on a balanced performance, and now they are competitive again. And Matt Pombo, with a huge amount of experience, of course, the Atlanta native, second generation driver. His father Pepe was quite a star. His brother Matt and Mark have had a lot of success in their own right as well. Hugely experienced is Matt, of course, as is his teammate Mike Lamara, who's a former series champion in what was then the ST division back in 2013 when it was Terry Porchella. Matt Pombo now is charging after John Morley, and he's got another win in his sights. He's had 7 wins in this series previously as Matt Pombo. He'd love to make it number 8.
Shea Adam has a Hyundai update in this VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock report.
Well, we heard about the 33 coming back down the pit lane. They did fuel and front tires for Mark Wilkins. It sparked, actually, the 17 in retaliation to come back down the pit lane, which ultimately responded in them having an issue on the left front of that car. I don't believe we're going to be having more TCR pit callers. It was indeed a faulty fuel probe that made the 33 come back in. They didn't get all the fuel in the first time that they thought they did, which was the big pit stop when all the other TCR cars came back down the pit lane. So it shouldn't have triggered a domino effect. Thankfully, our leaders did stay out, but I don't expect to see them coming back down.
Officially now retired, the number 81 CB Motorsports Hyundai Veloster. So bad luck for Mark Varmey and Trenton S-Step, as Mikey Taylor has exited the pits. So that 17 car has got back out of the pits. In fact, it has served a penalty as well for pit lane speeding. That's why there's so many pit stops next to that car. Battle for TCR though on the far side of the circuit, nearest the airfield, as they're heading towards turn 10. So like a measured drive from John Morley, 12th position. Matt Pombo now right there, and those two with some gap actually between themselves and the Brian Autosport Veloster. The 77 car is the next car up, and it's about 10 seconds further back down the road. There's a couple of GS cars between them. So with 12.5 minutes just under to go, Jeremy, these are the two, I think, that are battling for the win in TCR, coming through the Jean de Bihan S's, the Benz at the far side of the track, coming through there now.
Yeah, very much so, and yeah, they've got a pretty handy advantage over that third place car. Back in fourth place is Tim Lewis Jr. in the number 5 car for KMR Engineering, and I'm going to mention what the brand is, but they've had a good run.
No, absolutely not.
And in fifth position is Mason Felici in one of the Copeland Motorsports Hyundais, and it's kind of a 51.
So now it's a question of who is going to stop at the front of the field. In GS 4371, BMW, Chevy Camaro, Gregory Leafu and Robert Liddell. The Stephen Cameron Racing and Rebel Rock Racing. Oh, big slide by the LA Honda World TCR car in second position, and drops the left, check that, the right rear Michelin over that very, very sharp edge curb at the exit of turn 1. Didn't really slow him down at all though. Matt, right now underneath the rear wing of the Audi as they came through turn 4, 5 and into turn 6, the big bend, but the Audi punches out of those corners very well indeed. Down in the braking area at 7. Battle for the lead in TCR. Good crowd over there as well, enjoying the late afternoon sunshine at Sebring International Raceway for round 2 of the Michelin Pilot Challenge for 2021. It's the Alan J Automotive 120 live in sound and vision on IMSA TV and radio, www.imsaradio.com. Jeremy Shaw, John Hindhaugh, Shea Adam into the final 10 minutes. This is not over yet, Jeremy, not over at all. There's the sniff of the top step of the podium here. More than that for LA Honda World Racing and that Honda Civic.
Yeah, no, there's plenty of battles going on here as well. It's interesting to see that, I mean, there's battles all the way up and down the field, cars running on different strategies, making their pit stops at different times. Really fascinating race. I can't believe that the two leaders can get to the end without needing a splash and go. But of course, if there's a full course caution, then maybe they can. But certainly that's what they are hoping for right now. Number 43 and number 71 out in front as the battle for TCR continues. Just looking at the two McLarens also, they're running in 8th and 9th positions right now. Spencer Piggott in car number 3 ahead of the AWA car number 13, Kuno Whitmer. Whitmer is closing in on Piggott by, well, it was around about, it's about a second a lap. But there's still 5 seconds between them, and we've got 10 minutes to go, which is maybe 4, possibly 5 laps. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. Before the round of pit stops, the final round of pit stops, number 13 car was ahead of the number 3. So the MIA team from Canada have done a really good, well, they're both from Canada actually, aren't they? The MIA and AWA. They've both done a good job, but the number 3 car is currently ahead of the 13. That's the way they want to keep it. I've hardly seen that number 43 Stephen Cameron Racing BMW. It's been out on its own. Now it's extending the lead over Robin Liddell, who's clearly on fuel save mode. Up to 20
good point.
seconds now for Robin Liddell.
And Greg has now been out. He's on his 26th lap. He's been out there almost an hour, 58.5 minutes. 4 of those laps at the beginning were under full course yellow. I still can't believe it. Robin Liddell, 52 minutes or thereabouts since he left the pit lane, with 2 laps of his 24 under full course yellow. The key thing for me, Jeremy, is Leofoog now is half a minute ahead of Jan Helen, nearly 40 seconds ahead of Bill Oberlin in 4th position. Really, how long is it going to take him to get down the pit lane and splash? I would suggest he's certainly got to be looking at a top 6 position, even if he does stop.
That might be a bit of a stretch, I think, but certainly top 10, which would be good under the circumstances. But I'm sure he's thinking now he's got 7.5 minutes remaining. He's
going to go for it. I think you go for it, don't you?
Certainly Robin Liddell is, no question about that. But
problem is he's been caught too quickly.
Yeah, Robin Liddell is falling back from the leader by probably now a couple of seconds a lap, or a second and a half a lap at least. And Jan Helen is now only 6.5 seconds behind Robin Liddell in the 3rd position. But it's Gregory Leofoog. I mean, he's got a huge amount of experience in the Michelin Pilot Challenge Series and of course in BMWs as well over the years. He knows.
He's in the
all
pits.
About getting these cars to finish.
There we go.
All
right, in the pits now. So I reckon Robin Liddell can go 1, maybe 2 more laps from here. I don't think Liddell can make it even at the pace that he is going, and he wasn't fuel saving from when he got into the car. Here's Liddell coming towards the pit entrance, and Leofoog in the pit lane. Shea Adam.
And for Greg Leofoog and Sean Quinlan, they came into this race 5th in points after their great run at Daytona. They didn't want to come away potentially with 17 place points for not making it to the end of the race. And they are still waiting on fuel. They're putting a lot of fuel in that BMW, a lot more than 6 minutes worth. They could have done a super short fuel and send it back out. Well,
maybe they didn't get the fuel probe on quite as they wanted to. Oh, bit of smoke coming from the left rear of Robin Liddell's Camaro. Now, is that tyre smoke or is it engine smoke? I'm not sure. Oh, that looks like it might be oil smoke. Robin looking in his left-hand door mirror. It's getting worse as he goes down to turn 1. Let's have another look underneath the differential, and coming out the back of that car, there's definitely something coming out of it. He slows to turn into turn number 3. Meantime, the battle for TCR continues. Well, it may be moot that the fuel situation, because that looks like something more fundamental. So maybe, Jeremy, it wasn't just fuel saving. Maybe he's been fighting a problem on that Camaro for Rebel Rock Racing and Urban Grid.
Yeah, perhaps so. That could be the case, of course. He's gonna hang out there and go as far as he possibly can. But I haven't heard any audio to hear what it sounds like. But it certainly doesn't look good now for Robin Liddell. That's ugly. That's an awful lot of smoke.
3 more laps, I reckon, before.
Like 2 if he's not. Goes on much longer like this one, doesn't it?
The question will be, is it dropping anything onto the track? And that looks like there's a.
You talked about Gregory Leofoog coming out, maybe making it into the top 5. He did actually cross the line after making that stop in the 5th position.
Yeah.
He has Indy Johnson right with him.
Yeah, I thought, we don't know what happened at the stop there, because it did seem as though they took an inordinately long time. He was 13, 14 seconds, maybe more, ahead of Robin Liddell, who crosses the line now and stays out. So he goes past the pit entrance now. He stayed out. The die is cast for them, as I said. He stays out as long as he can. The bright blue Porsche is picking its way through TCR traffic and has Robin in sight down the back straight. It's down to 4 seconds now. Another almost 4 seconds disappeared on the last lap, Jeremy, and this is getting nail-biting time, because what have we got? We've got 3.5 minutes to go.
Yeah.
One more lap after this one.
Yeah, 2 more laps, absolutely right, yes.
Well,
They just showed the meatball to Robin Liddell, though. Mechanical black flag for 71. He's gonna have to pit.
You've got 3 laps to serve it, and there are 3 laps to the end of the race.
Stay out. Absolutely right, Jeremy. Absolutely right. So that's the black flag with the orange disc. It's a mechanical issue flag. So long as they don't give him a black flag, which he would have to come in straight to go. Mechanical black flag. Is it 3 laps for a mechanical black flag, Jeremy? Let's check that one out.
For generally speaking, for any kind of an instructional flag, you don't have to come in on the next lap unless it's the
black with orange disc, aka meatball flag, indicates a car with mechanical fault. Immediate action required. Stop at your pit next time at the pit entrance. That's rule 27.6.
Right. Where on the track did he get the flag? Because we are talking again. This is November all over again, Shay, isn't it? You know, looking for a great result, and in the dying moments, realising that Frank Depew needed another 30 seconds of drive time. Dying moments here, realising he's got 1 more lap to go at the end of this one. The gap has actually gone out, because Jan Helen did a 13.5 last time around, and Robin Liddell took time out of him.
He did. He's probably got a windscreen full of oil. I wonder whether the number 16 car is running low on fuel. I mean, they made their stop. They took on as much fuel as they thought they were going to need to get to the end of the race. So he's assuming, I think, there's going to be a problem. Either number 71 car is going to run out of fuel, or it's going to get black flagged, or whatever.
Well, Helen's been out there 40 minutes on the nose. He's on his 20th lap. This will be lap 27 completed for Robin Liddell. He stayed out, and he'll get the white flag this time around. This could be controversial. This might end up in the steward's room afterwards. Jan Helen has got 3 3/4 miles or thereabouts to catch Robin Liddell for the win. This is going to be a big story here. Our Michelin Pilot moment of the race may not yet have been set in GS. If Robin Liddell gets this one to the line, he may not even keep it with the meatball flag out. I didn't see it again over the start-finish line there. It has been shown once. And Jan Helen reporting that he's got no grip. Tyres have gone, good on fuel, but it's an issue for them, having maybe pushed too hard in the early parts of the race. What I can't remember, Shay, is did they take 4 tyres when they were in the Wright Motorsports Porsche?
Negative, that was fuel only.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the issue there. John Morley is just about hanging on to the TCR lead, and in fact he's pulled out to 1.2 seconds. Urban Grid, Rebel Rock Racing, Frank Depew and Robin Liddell. Well, what a famous victory this will be. We'll give you our choices for pilot moment of the race, but at the moment it's just too much going on. Of course, he can't pit now, even if he wanted to, because he wouldn't get to the checkered flag, because the pits are on the back straight. He stayed out. He has stayed out. Helen has got it down to under 4 seconds, but Liddell is going to take this one on the track, and it'll be sorted out later. Whatever was burning off is gone. There's nothing left of it. You always wonder, is that okay, or is that going to be catastrophic? It may not yet be over, the drama. We've said that before. Through turn 17 for the final time. Rebel Rock Racing in the Urban Grid Camaro. Scotsman Robin Liddell finishes the job that Frank Depew started and takes round 2 of the Michelin Pilot Challenge at Sebring. Now, this one's going to take some sorting out. Wright Motorsports, Jan Helen in second. Bill Oberlin will hold on to third, just ahead of Trent Hinman, who was right there on the line. Then Leofug, who led for so long but needed the splash at the end. Indy Donsha in 6th position after a good first stint from Russell Ward for Winward Racing. That's your top 6 in TCR. Morley has got a gap between himself and Matt Pombo for LA Honda World Racing. Well, Jeremy, what a race. What a race this is. I'll ask you about your pilot moment of the races to my 2 co-commentators, but let's see the TCR cars across the line. The Alan J Automotive 120 is already the Alan J Automotive Network's 122, so we've given you a little bit of overtime here. Gavin Hansen kept it clean even after he was bumped sideways at turn 1 and finished off by John Morley. Roadshagger win TCR. What a popular victory that will be up and down the pit lane. Relatively new team to IMSA Racing in the early part of their racing career. Great strategy, Jeremy. I'm going to say that they're my vote for TCR pilot moment of the race for their strategy. They pitted when they thought they could get home, and John's done the job. As the rest of the field comes through, LA Honda World in 2nd, Brian Herder Autosport in 3rd, KMW with TMR Alfa Romeo Giulietta Veloce. We can see it now in 4th position, ahead of the Michael Johnson Racing Hyundai Copeland Motorsport 51 in 6th position. Phew-wee. Jeremy Shaw. Oh, Robin hasn't got all the way around, I don't think. The car has expired, Shea Adam.
He made it to the entrance of the 12-hour pit lane, pulled over and got out of the car. That's why I was giggling after he crossed the start-finish line. He knew it wasn't going to make it all the way back to the podium. And now Robin is trying to bum a ride to the podium from the safety crew. If he walks down the pit lane, he can get there probably faster.
Wow. Wow. Shea, TCR, what's your pilot moment of the race?
John Morley going around the outside of turn 1 to take the lead.
Yeah.
Gotta be it.
Yeah. Jeremy, anything better than that for you?
Sorry, TCR.
Yeah, John Morley going around the outside and taking the win with the strategy as well for Roadshagger.
Yeah, no, they called it absolutely right. Honourable mention certainly for KMW Motorsports, the TMR engineering. Alfa Romeo finishing 4th, coming from the back of the pack and struggling in the early stages. So a really good run for them also. But no, I think you're absolutely right. Roadshagger Racing, they called it absolutely perfectly, and a great job by both of those 2 drivers.
Now, a bit harder to decide what's going on in GS because all the results are unofficial. Jeremy, GS, pilot moment of the race?
Gosh, that is a real tough one, isn't it? I think you've got to give it to the winning team, haven't you, for pulling that off?
I think you have.
The strategy was to stay out there. And even with all the dramas that they had and the black flag and everything else, wow, that's astonishing to be able to bring it home and go that far on a tank of fuel.
An hour and 2 minutes for Robin Liddell, an hour and 2 minutes for Frank Depew. They spent the same amount of time in the car. I don't think you're going to argue with that, Shea, are you? Or are you?
I am.
Go on.
My moment of the race was Jan Halen tricking Bill Oberlin into making a mistake in turn 1, because the number of times that's happened, well, that you don't even need a full hand, you need one finger.
Oh, right. Yeah, all right. That's a tough one. So I've got the casting vote here. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Even with the race result very much unofficial, I think I'm going to have to go with Rebel Rock. Just because it was such a bold move to leave Robin out there. They'd cast the die, and Robin Liddell, we know how fast he is. Well, he was light-footed enough as well. No full send required from the Scotsman. So our 2 pilot challenge moments of the race for the 2 winning teams. It's not always like that. In fact, normally our moment of the race is not the leading cars. The fact that it's coming home on a tow rope as well is the certain sense of irony. Oh, Jeremy Shaw, brilliant stuff again. Maybe not quite as much side by side that we've seen, but quite a lot of attrition early on. Is there anybody in steering? Yes, there is. I thought I was going to have to say, has everybody forgotten how to race? Can you believe it? At the start of the race, we had 3 cars behind the wall in the first 12 minutes.
Yeah, it was I mean, a usual dramatic race, I guess, is what you have to say. But all sorts of action all the way up and down the field, and I'm just trying to work out some of the points tables here, and it's going to be with very few of the top finishers from Daytona in both classes finishing well again here. There's going to be a big shuffle around in the points. The lone exception to that, of course, is Turner Motorsports in the BMW. They were second, Bill Oberlin and Dylan McIvern at Daytona, and have a third place finish here, so they will lead the points certainly in GS. But this has been a tremendously exciting race that's absolutely lived up to expectations.
Well, first of our regular length races, the Alan J Automotive 120, with plenty going on right into the final moments as the Rebel Rock Racing Urban Grid Camaro is... Well, it's been taken back towards the vicinity of Victory Circle. So maybe a word has been had. They may get a slap on the wrist for that. But let's see what happens. It's unofficial at the moment, and we've had no word from race control. I am keeping a very, very beady eye on the race control channel, and as yet I have not seen anything. And the 71 car has been put in the impound, which is what happens to the winning cars. Mechanical black flag came out with 2 laps to go. The checkered flag ending the race, of course. My goodness me, what brilliant stuff. Fastest laps of the race, by the way. Van der Ster Racing in TCR and Wright Motorsport in GS. Just for those of you who watch that kind of thing. By the way, if you're listening to us on RS2, just a quick reminder that in about 15 minutes over on RS1, and we'll be off the air by then, so you won't be missing anything. It is our 2021 FIA Formula One World Championship preview. Nick Damon and Sam Collins from F1 TV and well-known technical journalist will be looking over the Formula One's field ahead of their season start in a week or so's time. That's in 15 minutes, 9 o'clock UK, that's 5 o'clock Eastern on channel RS1 via the player. Listen live on imsaradio.com and radiolemans.com. Well, in the list of really weird endings to races, Jeremy, I think that's just gone to the top. It really has.
Yeah, and by the way, I just texted Bo Barfield. Any penalty for number 71 for not heeding the flag? Negative.
Oh,
race director.
Oh, excellent. Right. Well, the celebration can start. The celebration can start for Rebel Rock Racing. Frank Depew and Robin Liddell. No penalty from the race director. Thank you, Bo Barfield, for coming back to Jeremy Shaw here in the Hagerty Global Broadcast Centre so quickly. Robin takes off the gloves and helmet. There's a bit of a chat going on between him and his teammate there. So as it stands right now, with post-race tech, of course, still to come, but as it stands right now, Rebel Rock Racing have won another race, Jeremy Shaw.
Yeah, that's astonishing, absolutely astonishing. They'd be able to stretch out the fuel that far. I mean, I don't know whether they had a reserve fuel tank in there. I'm kidding, because they're not allowed. But it was a remarkable effort. I mean, there's Robin Liddell using all of his experience to bring that car home in those sort of circumstances. And he knew right from the beginning when he got in the car, I'm sure, that if there was any hope of getting to the end, he would have been on full fuel save right from the very start of his stint. So clearly that's what the team had in mind. And he pulled it off absolutely perfectly. Remarkable effort by that whole Rebel Racing team, but particularly by, we're not going to call him Leadfoot Liddell anymore, are we?
Softfoot.
Lightfoot Liddell.
Yeah, Robbie Softfoot. Yeah, absolutely. Just a note on that. Again, this is coming from IMSA. Thank you, Nate Sabins. An advisory flag, the mechanical black flag situation, advisory flag, so no issue then confirmed from IMSA. So just to add a little bit of meat to the bones, congratulations as well to Roadshagger Racing. What a brilliant run for those guys, and tactics and smarts both from both of our winners, also putting them into the win situation for our pilot moment of the race, and they'll be getting a set of racing tyres from Michelin.